Welcome everybody to the first ever podcast between myself, Dan Cuttajar, and Christian Bertone. Today, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Part 1, which is one of our, both of us, our favorite games ever made, if not our favorite game ever made. The reason we're talking about The Last of Us is because there was some big news in the community regarding the sequel, because the original game came out in 2013, so it's quite dated. But the sequel has been announced and it has been confirmed that it is going to come out in 2018, which is really exciting because I've been waiting for the sequel forever. We didn't even know if we were going to get a sequel, but the fact that we're getting one is awesome in itself, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And some people were even kind of worrisome about a sequel too. They said, well, the first one's done, let's just leave it at that, and you know what I mean? But like, now that the sequel's out, everybody's hyped, and I believe it won most anticipated game of the year for 2017 when the original trailer came out, sorry.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me at all because this game had such a huge following, and for good reason, right? So, for those of you that don't know, The Last of Us is a survival apocalypse game. Came out in 2013 exclusively on PS3, so Christian, why don't you give us a little bit of a brief overview of what The Last of Us is?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, it's hard to start because there's so much to talk about this game in particular. Well, we're going to talk about all the important stuff. Essentially, it's a zombie game, so if you don't like zombies, I guess it's not for you. But essentially, what it is, it's this guy goes by the name of Joel. He's a smuggler. Without giving away too many details, he has to escort this young girl across the country to save the world, basically. There's a disease that's ravaged humanity. Everybody's living in quarantine zones. It's a rough situation. It's an extensive journey, but along the way he runs into Ellie, so she's the female that you see on the cover here. She is immune to this virus. There's reason to believe that something in her contains a cure, so he has to escort her across the country, and that journey is the journey of this game that you're on. Since I played this game in 2013, this game has become the standard by which I judge most other games.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like this is the gold standard for me. If it doesn't meet up to this in terms of narrative storytelling, you know what I mean, gameplay, just overall quality, then it just kind of leaves a void. But this game definitely left a void that I needed to fill, and so far I haven't been able to fill it. But maybe the sequel's gonna come out, where that's gonna change. So
let's kind of segue into the intro to why we're talking about this. So The Last of Us 2 trailer, we're mostly going to be focused on the second trailer rather than the first trailer because we didn't really see all that much in the first trailer. We just saw Ellie playing guitar and the shadow of Joel walking through the door. We really didn't have much to go off. And frankly, we really don't have much to go off in the new trailer, but it's just something we've never seen before, so I feel like there's a lot more talking points. And speaking of talking points, this trailer got people talking, and not necessarily in the best way. It sparked a lot of controversy. Yeah, no, it sparked a lot of negative controversy. There are a couple articles out there that weren't too happy with it because, frankly, it's a very brutal trailer. It is brutal, and that either resonates well with some people and resonates not so well with other people. And the reason being is because, like I said, it's so hard to watch, but it's also in the content of the trailer. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, that people have been calling it misogynist or kind of hateful towards women.
I was just gonna mention that as well, right? Like, because we know that video games have violence. That's nothing new. But this in particular seems to portray violence against women in particular. There's a lot of women getting beat in this trailer. And
in a gruesome way, and there's no hiding it either. One thing that I found notable about this, though, if you notice that all these speaking characters or all the main characters are actually women. You know, like the only male characters are the goons who actually are, like, they die in 2 seconds. Like, you see them, like, hammer the girl's arm, and then they get an arrow through the skull 3 seconds later. So I would argue this is almost, this is not hateful towards women in any way, because, in fact, it's the story is around them. The main characters of this trailer are all women who happen to be, dealing with violent situations, but that's just, it's not... It's just it's a circumstance of the environment that they're in. It's the apocalypse, and I would argue that they're actually being stripped of their femininity because of the apocalypse. They have to just do whatever it takes to survive, and in this situation, this is what it means to survive. Now we weren't given any context in this trailer. We don't know what that lady did to be, deserve that or why.
Well, I think that's even that's even a reason why people are upset. The fact that there is no context, that it's people were worried that they're just presenting this to get some kind of emotional reaction from the viewers and that kind of thing. Oh yeah, for sure it did. Just really quick, Erin Kane from Forbes magazine said that the trailer made her sick to her stomach. All right, and I'm sure she's not the only one.
It made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It is hard to watch, and that's, I think that's what Naughty Dog is going for here. They're not going for a glorification of violence, because if they were, they wouldn't be showing it in the gruesome way that they're showing it. It's portrayed in a way, it's one shot. I don't think there's any cuts. But there's no like action shots. They're not making it try and look cool. It's like you just see in wide angle what's like the violence that's ensuing, and you see, like, you hear that the sound effects are gruesome. The visuals are gruesome, and it's not portrayed in a way that's you're supposed to feel, oh wow, this is cool. You're supposed to be like, oh shit, it's the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a good situation, right?
Yeah, well, that was the thing with the first game, and I think, well, even you read the reviews on the first game, and it really praised the way the game didn't glorify violence, as I think we mentioned, right? You know, and I think it's a refreshing thing to see in video games where violence isn't glorified, even though it's there. You know what I mean? It's not like most mainstream games. Like, you have Call of Duty, right? You get kills and you get rewards for those kills,
yes.
right? The violence in the first game, and hopefully in the second one, is more portrayed as like a kind of like a consequence of their circumstance, right? It's not something that you want to do, and in fact, when you're put in a position to like survive, which in some cases requires like
life or death,
like you to harm someone, right? Like, they'll occasionally like back up, they'll cower from you. They'll be like, well, no, don't shoot me, don't hit me, whatever.
There's no denying that violence is part of this game, and I mean, you could say you are rewarded because you have to, right? You're rewarded to getting onto the next level by committing these acts of violence. You have to kill the zombies, you have to kill the people in the way in order to move on. That's just the nature of the game itself. But you mentioned, and I like the wording you used in the notes here, you said you feel the weight of every kill. It's not so much like, yeah, I gotta kill this guy. It's more so
exactly.
It's more like, so that the zombies are chasing after you, and you literally feel like you're surviving in this environment. You're so immersed in it. I remember the first time I played it, it's a horror game. It's classified as a horror game, so you feel the weight of everything, and it's super immersive in that.
Not
regard.
even just in your own actions, but even in the environment. But
so one thing that I actually find interesting, I don't know if you've seen the making of The Last of Us, but
I did watch it years ago, but
okay.
You can refresh me, yeah.
So cordyceps, what I find so cool about this story is the disease, or the zombification, you could say, it's actually a plausible thing that could possibly happen. Like, cordyceps is a real disease. For those of you that don't know, cordyceps it runs in ants. It's a viral disease in ants, where basically when they die, they turn into fungus, and they spore and they sprout and become basically a tree, and the spores spread across the entire colony, and then they all die. So in this world, the disease has jumped to humanity, and so the same thing has happened, where they get infected with these spores, and then they start to sprout into these beautifully horrific creatures known as clickers and runners, and the infected in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have these floral designs.
They're not called zombies in this game. They're
not
called
zombies.
infected.
They're infected, yes. The score is done by Gustavo Santaolalla.
Yeah.
Probably butchered the name, but I think that's how you pronounce it. It was a beautiful, acoustic, kind of tribal score, I would say.
If you guys aren't familiar, by the way, with the composer, so I'm gonna butcher his name. I feel
Gustavo
like
Santaolalla?
Yeah, I feel like you said it pretty good.
Okay.
He did the music for Babel, if you've ever seen that movie, and he also did the music for Brokeback Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like he's not well known in film. People have heard about him. He does good work. Certainly did good work on this game.
Yeah. It just adds to the cinematic value of it.
Oh
right?
yeah, 100%. The score in particular is what drew me to this game initially. I was just browsing iTunes back in 2013, and I came across the score to this game, and I was like, man, if a game, like, our game's putting this out now, like, really, like,
Sure. Yeah, so I mean the score is just amazing. I remember it was my soundtrack for a while, my personal soundtrack. I would listen to it like while walking around and stuff. It's so good.
Still got it on my phone.
Oh yeah, still on my phone
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
100%. No, it's never leaving too. It's just
Yeah.
anytime you just want some, you want to feel you're walking down the hall and it feels like the apocalypse. Throw on the Last of Us soundtrack. And
Helps me fall asleep sometimes. Actually,
It is
I
quite
don't know.
relaxing at some points. Yeah, no, 100%. Like Home, that song is.
Oh yeah, mine was The Choice. Was mine.
That's the first one that got me into it, but then I listened to it all the way through, and then I heard that song, and it's just remarkable. But we can't talk about the score forever. So
Go
let's talk
download
about
The Choice. No.
Download the whole album. Don't
Yeah.
listen to the whole thing. So for those of you who are into video games, you might be familiar with the Uncharted series. Naughty Dog is the developer of the Uncharted series, which is basically the Indiana Jones of video games. It's very much like Indiana Jones. It has the same kind of character types, the treasure hunter. But this is the game that kind of stemmed off Naughty Dog from the rest of the crowd, and at least on the PS3. Obviously, they had like Crash Bandicoot back in the day, but at least on this on the modern console. Uncharted is where they branched off.
Yeah.
And if you played those games, then you'll feel right at home with The Last of Us. The gameplay mechanics are almost identical. The third person, it's from a third person perspective. And it's just as smooth. The gunplay is super responsive because there isn't ammo on every corner and every hallway. You have to use your ammo.
It's sparse. You got to look for it.
Very sparse, especially if you're playing on hard mode.
And if you bought the remastered, I think there's a grounded difficulty as well, right?
Is it grounded or survive? Yeah, it's why it's one of those.
It's really hard, whatever it is.
Yeah,
it's
I haven't
difficult.
even beaten it on that because it really is difficult. So if you go into a room guns a-blazing and you're you have 4 bullets, you have 4 bullets to make them count. You know what I mean? So it's not your first choice is not to use your gun, which is good because it makes you think, like you said, it has that stealth element.
Yeah.
So the game really is a stealth game. So if you want to talk about the stealth mechanics,
Oh yeah, 100%. I think we should mention too that it really feeds the narrative, even certain aspects of the gameplay. So thing about the gameplay, so Joel has something called like a listen mode, right? So what this does, when you're kind of crouching around trying to get through dangerous areas, you could listen, and on the screen it kind of shows where the enemies are when you do the listen mode. Ironically though, like if you from a narrative standpoint, so the clickers, so like they have no eyesight, they listen and they hear for people too, right?
yeah,
So
they use echolocation.
so in a sense, like they're not too different from you, and that's well, except for the fact that they're kind of dead. You know what I mean? But it just goes to show, like, especially when you familiarize yourself with the environment, how you kind of have to be a monster to survive in this world.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I
who's the
mean?
real
And you don't have exactly right. Like you don't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
In that aspect, but you do have a choice on how you go about certain things, right?
Oh, well, let's talk about the crafting system, because the crafting system is quite unique in its its own right. So basically, you have the choice of making, as you progress through the game and unlock these abilities, you have like 5 different things you can craft. You can make smoke bombs, nail bombs, Molotov cocktails, health packs, and shiv blades. Those are what you can make. Certain items require the same parts, so you have to choose how you want to use the items you collect to what you want to craft.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but one thing one thing that happened to me a lot while I was playing the game was I would be low on health, right? So I could either take the alcohol and the rags and make like a
med
kind
kit,
of like a med kit, or you could, maybe you're in a tough situation, there's infected all around you, you got to make a Molotov and
so they
throw
require
fire
the
at 'em,
exact they require the exact same things to make, so you have to make that choice. So
Yeah.
there's no pauses in the game, which adds to the intensity of it and your sense of urgency. So
which
when
is
you
pretty unique. If you play a lot of other games like this, you're not gonna have that. Normally, you press the menu, you pause, everything gets put on hold. You know, nothing's attacking you. You craft what you need to craft, and then you have it. In this game,
it's all happening. Like, you could get attacked while you're trying to make a med kit.
Yeah.
So that, again, it adds to the intensity. So you have to pick your moments, pick and choose your moments. So you would either want to do it before you enter a room, or listen in the room, see how much movement is going on, and then, okay, I'm going to craft my supplies based on that. or if you've just finished an encounter and you just barely have any health left, you have to scour it together, make a med kit, and it honestly makes for some of the most enjoyable moments in the game because they're so suspenseful, and you're watching the dial go as he's slowly crafting a med kit, and you're just praying that a runner or a clicker doesn't come around the corner.
Well, that's another thing too. It's not instant, right? Like when you're crafting something, you have to wait a while.
Yeah, it takes like 3 or 5 seconds to craft the
thing.
So
if you're in a rough area and you gotta wait a while to create your med kit, like anything can jump out at you. So it's really you get paranoid.
So we're running out of time here, so we do gotta wrap things up. So just talk about a few things about the new game that I'm looking forward to. So I did mention at the beginning that I have a theory about how the new game's gonna play out.
Let's hear it.
The new mechanic of the game. So I think actually that this is gonna be a non-linear story, and I think we're actually gonna get to play multiple different characters. I think that it's not going to be just Joel and Ellie's story, because I think that would be redundant and take away from what the first game did. So I think, yes, the story is going to be about Joel and Ellie, or more so just Ellie. There's theories out there that people think that Joel's not around anymore. We've yet to have any confirmation on that. There's some theories. That's a whole other video.
Naughty Dog's very good at giving you just enough information to keep you hooked.
For sure. So that concludes our podcast on The Last of Us trailer number 2 and The Last of Us original game. As you can tell, we're excited, but not too excited because we don't want to have.
I'm pretty excited, man.
I mean, yeah, but I don't. I don't want to get too excited because I don't want to be disappointed. But yes, of course, I'm going to be there right as soon as it comes out. And it's funny you say that because we've been going on about not pre-ordering games. But if we're gonna pre-order a game,
this is the one.
This is the one to pre-order it. Yeah, for sure. So we're really excited about it. And once again, just wanted to thank you so much for tuning into this, and we appreciate you taking the time to listen.
Thanks for watching, guys. And if you like games, you want to find something new to play, I recommend you pick this up if you can, because it's fantastic.
So on that note, once again, this has been Dan and Christian, and we thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you sometime soon.
Thanks, guys.
Take it easy.